Okay. Good morning, everyone. First off, thank you so much for joining us in the amazing city of Vaughan for this very significant announcement as we build the province together. I am honored to host our Premier, Doug Ford, of course, Minister Piccini, MPP Laura Smith, and as well on behalf of MPP Tobolo. We are proud to be here with the leadership of LiUNA, with the skilled workers that are making a difference in our province, as well with Jack Oliveira and Joseph Mancinelli, Richard from ResCon. The dream team is with us. Thank you so much for your partnership and leadership. We have a vision. Our Premier has a plan to build our province from the largest subway expansion to energy expansion in Canadian history. And we need skilled workers to lead the way. And that's why we're here today, to set in motion another step forward as we build this skilled workforce that's going to drive our economy and our prosperity for generations to come. Literally, work that will sustain our economy for our children and our grandchildren. And so I'm very honored to be part of this work. I'm excited to roll up my sleeves as we build our nuclear enterprise with LiUNA workers. And I'm also excited to introduce a man who's been a partner here in the city of Vaughan and a friend, the Honourable Stephen Del Duca, the Mayor of the City of Vaughan. Thank you so much.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am so delighted to be here with all of you for what I know will be an incredibly important announcement that the Premier will be making in just a couple of minutes. I have to say to the Premier and to the ministers and caucus members representing the provincial government, I love it when you come to the City of Vaughan. It's always good news. It is literally always good news. A few months ago, some of you will recall, the Premier came to Vaughan and announced support and funding and approval for the York University School of Medicine that's going to be built right here in our city. Absolutely important. Just yesterday, Infrastructure Minister Surma and MPP Laura Smith announced $35 million from the province to support stormwater management in the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre that will help enable 20,000 units of housing right here in our city. And here today, in this incredible LiUNA facility, I know that we're going to hear some really, really good news, as I mentioned. And the interesting thing to me about all of these announcements that the Premier and his government have been making here in our city is that these things don't happen by accident. They happen because governments, in this case the provincial government and a Premier and his team, make the deliberate decision to invest in our people, in our infrastructure, in our communities, and in our future. And none of this magic would be able to happen here in Ontario if we did not continue to have the most incredibly skilled and hardest working workers anywhere in the world. And you see many of them standing behind us today. The women and men of LiUNA have created miracles through many, many decades. The leadership of this union has really been inspirational with how they've looked forward, how they've always partnered, how they've always wanted to make those critical investments so that together we are getting it right. And today, what you are witnessing is that magic when you fuse together, when you create that collaboration and that partnership. And I'm so excited that it's happening right here in my city, the City of Vaughan. And before I hand things over to the LiUNA Local 183 Business Manager, Jack Oliveira, I just wanted to say, Jack, I have good news for you as well. In this year's City of Vaughan budget, I will be including funding so that Huntington Road can finally be upgraded right outside this facility. So, thank you so very much, Premier Ford, Minister Piccini, Minister Lecce, MPP Laura Smith, and of course to Joe Mancinelli and Jack Oliveira and the entire LiUNA family and team. Thank you for everything that you do on a regular basis to make this city and this province and the country the very best anywhere in the world. Thank you, and now I'll turn things over to Jack Oliveira.
Good morning, and thank you for being here today. I would like to thank Premier Ford, Minister Piccini, Minister Lecce, Mayor Del Duca, LiUNA International, Vice President, Canadian Directors Joseph Mancinelli, honored guests, and all the various stakeholders who have worked hard to make this happen. I am Jack Oliveira, Business Manager of LiUNA Local 183. For the last few years, Ontario has experienced a significant labor shortage across all sectors of the construction industry. The LIUNA Local 183 Training Center has long been the cornerstone of workforce development in Ontario since its inception in the late 1980s, bringing tens of thousands of new entrants into the construction industry. When the Vaughan campus was established in 1990, the LIUNA Local 183 membership stood around 11,000 members. Today, as we are here standing with our membership is over 70,000, signifying remarkable growth and interest in the construction industry. Our challenge was our ability to continue to meet the demands of labor market today and into the future. Recent government investments in critical infrastructure projects, such as the Bradford Bypass, Highway 413, the Finch Line LRT, the Ontario LRT, and the Ontario Line have further highlighted the essential roles of construction workers in shaping the province's future and call the attention to increased demands on our labor market. We at LIUNA Local 183 and across the industry knew that we could do more. So we approached the government and offered sensible solutions that would help address these shortages in the long term. One of our key recommendations was the need to increase the ability to train more people. Put simply, we needed more space. We need to increase our training footprint to meet the future demands of the industry. This government listened, and today they are delivering. Thanks to the SDF capital stream from the Government of Ontario, the LIUNA Local 183 Training Center is ready to equip the next generation of workers with the knowledge and expertise needed to succeed in this vital and dynamic sector. With that, I would like to introduce LIUNA International Vice President and Canadian Director, my brother, your brother, my friend, your friend, Joseph Manchinelli.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Premier Ford, all the ministers that are here today, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. This is an historic day for our training center here in Vaughan that puts so many young people, men and women, through this training center and preparing them for the future workers of Ontario. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Jack Oliveira, his Board of Trustees, our contractors that spend an extraordinary amount of time at this training center ensuring that we get new workers for the future work in Ontario. Now, I would be remiss if I wouldn't congratulate Premier Ford, his cabinet, Minister Piccini, our Labour Minister, for investing in so many young men and women coming into the workforce and investing in the workforce of tomorrow here in Ontario. So many great projects that have been announced in Ontario, the 413, a number of other projects right across the province. I have had the pleasure of sitting on the Invest Ontario board, and I can tell you that there is an unprecedented group of international companies coming into Ontario. All of them need facilities, all of them need warehousing and buildings and battery plants, etc. And someone has to build them. And those folks are the members of LIUNA, 140,000 members of LIUNA, men and women that are dedicated to building the hospitals, the roads, the bridges, the sewers, the water mains, right across Ontario. So thank you, Premier, and thank you, Minister Piccini, Minister Lecce, and Cabinet, and all of the Government of Ontario for not only investing in the infrastructure and the buildings in this province, but for investing in the men and women of LIUNA and the workers in the building trades as well. So very proud to be here with you here today. This is a historic day because no government, not federal and not provincial ever in Ontario, has invested in the workers of tomorrow like this government has. So it is a real pleasure for me to introduce our Minister of Labour, Skills and Development and Immigration, David Piccini, that is responsible for working very closely with LIUNA, and we appreciate your help very much. Mr. Piccini.
Thank you very much, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great day here in Vaughan and for workers across Ontario. Thank you, Joe, for that kind introduction, and happy birthday. It's an honor to be here alongside Premier Ford, our incredible caucus colleagues, Minister Lecce, PA Laura Smith, who are such strong advocates for this region, and really with an eye towards our next generation. So thank you for being here. Jack Oliveira from LaUna 183, thank you for your leadership, steadfast leadership, Jack. Sandra Pinto, our training director here. I did want to also acknowledge, and I don't want to run through repeating everybody who's already been introduced, but two organizations who are here who work, because the workers behind us, the LaUna workers, the LaUna family, partner with so many incredible nonprofits in our community. And we have Oaks Revitalization, who are here today, Mark Tenalia and Joe Williams, who are here. Thank you for the work you do with justice-affected and involved families across Ontario, showing them that there is hope, that there is a better tomorrow, and that tomorrow starts today. So thank you for your leadership. I also want to acknowledge Natasha Ferguson, who's here somewhere from A Woman's Work. Again, another inspiring Ontarian empowering women in the construction sector, and she stands as such a role model for young women entering this important sector. I'm really excited to be here at LaUna 183 today for this historic announcement. It is a remarkable day in Ontario. Better training, better jobs with bigger paychecks. That is what we are on a mission to do. And why are we doing it? Well, in Ontario alone, we have 190 billion reasons. That is our investment in subways, largest investment in Ontario's history. That is our investment in highways and critical infrastructure. You heard Joe and Jack mention it, from Bradford Bypass to Highway 413. We have to get it right. But this infrastructure, the 50-plus hospitals under construction, the schools under construction, new nuclear, powering a better tomorrow, none of that just appears because we wish it to appear. It appears because men and women get up each and every day to make it happen, to build a better Ontario. And under Premier Ford, our government has an ambitious plan to build that better future. Together with partners, we're training hundreds of thousands of new workers for careers in the trades. But a large share of experienced tradespeople are retiring over the coming years. So you've heard about the need, the incredible building that's happening in the province of Ontario. But we also are losing 1 in 3 tradespeople who are nearing retirement in the coming years. And we must transfer the skill set and expertise from that incredible generation on to the next. And that lies at the heart of what we're doing with the Ontario Skills Development Fund. To date, investing over $1.4 billion to train approximately over 600,000 workers, which includes 92,000 manufacturing workers, 66,000 construction workers, 36,000 PSWs and healthcare workers. Our Skills Development Fund enables us to connect today's students with the golden generation of skilled tradespeople, the people who built this province into what it is today. People like Arthur Clark, a LaUna member for 36 years. He's a cement finisher who helped build the York University subway line. Thank you for what you've done. Guillermo Bulau, member for 28 years, general laborer who built the Kingston General Hospital and Queen's University, where my wife studied. Mario Cirillo, proud member for 64 years, who built Yonge, Bathurst, and Spadina subway stations. He's seen LaUna 183 grow to what it is today. 70-plus thousand strong members. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. We don't value a society we passively inherit. We value a society we have an active stake in creating, and that's what those members did. For building new housing that families can call home, highways and public transit, connecting us to our communities to be home with our loved ones faster, to clean energy projects, powering a cleaner tomorrow. We have no time to waste in the province of Ontario. And so I'm honored to be here with these champions, these partners. LaUna has been a remarkable leader, empowering underrepresented groups to take an active stake in that better tomorrow, empowering women to take a better stake. We can't do it, ignoring 50% of our workforce. And they've been remarkable champions for women in construction. Jack, Joe, thank you for your leadership, your partnership. Thank you for your commitment to this province. And it's my honor now to turn things over to a true champion for workers in the province of Ontario, who recognizes that we're going to take that society that we have an active stake in creating, and we're going to empower the workers with the skill sets to make it happen. Premier Doug Ford.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, David, for that great introduction. Isn't he a great speaker? I was listening to him. It's like Mayor Del Duca and Lech and the rest of them. But before I start, I just want to thank all the workers back here, our future generation, and they're just incredible folks. Oh, I always say if you have a trade, you have a job for life. You have a paycheck for life. You can go out there and put a down payment on a home and pay a mortgage, and I'm just so proud of each and every one of them. That's our future standing right behind us. Those are the folks, as David was saying, that's going to build the roads, the highways, the hospitals, the schools, and the infrastructure that we're doing right now to a tune of $190 billion. And it's always great to be back here in the beautiful city of Vaughan, alongside Minister Lecce, Minister Piccini, and MPP Laura Smith. If you ask Lech and David, who's the hardest working MPP, it's Laura Smith. She's done an incredible job. She's at every single event, so thank you, Laura. Where are you? There you are. Champ of all champs. And I also want to welcome Mayor Stephen Del Duca. You know, we just have an incredible relationship, and the relationship just keeps getting stronger when he, brings over a box of cannolis and we smash down a box every once in a while. I think you're overdue for a visit, Stephen. So we got to, but, I said in front of 21 large city mayors, and we have great mayors, by the way, in 444 municipalities, but he's one of the best. You call him up, you have an issue, you need anything, he's there. So thank you, Mayor, for your collaboration and cooperation. Mark, as well, from the Oaks Revitalization Association, Mark from Building Up, Richard from ResCon, and a big thank you to the leaders that have helped build this province for decades. That's Jack, Joe, I know Victoria as well, and Sandro. Thank you for everything you've done. Everyone at LiUNA Local 183. Folks, LiUNA has been such an amazing partner to our government, helping build the homes and the transit and the roads and infrastructure, providing hands-on training to thousands and thousands of workers at state-of-the-art facilities like this one, and helping to ensure we have the best workforce in the entire world, the workforce to build Ontario. I have the privilege and the honor to have governors and senators come up, and they take a look at our city, and they fly over the city. Even though the interest rates are still too high, we have to knock those interest rates down. We have 221 cranes in Toronto, and if you look on the crane list, that's more than New York, Chicago, LA, Dallas, Houston, Seattle, and they threw in Honolulu. I don't know, Honolulu has 11 cranes, but combined, that's not mentioning the greater Toronto area that have over 300 cranes. And right now, things are very tough for people with these high interest rates, but they lower those interest rates down to about 3.5%. You'll see these homes pop up like mushrooms. This facility, this campus, is just absolutely amazing. And I'm told it's the largest skilled trades campus in all of Canada. And that you can actually build a full-size, two-story residential home here, just like the one behind me, from start to finish. That's absolutely incredible. And friends, before I get started, I want to give a big shout-out to all the workers, as I did earlier on behind me. And these students here today, they're going to be the future of building Ontario right across this great province. Thank you for all you do. I always say this, and I mean it. We can't build Ontario without each and every one of you. And I love seeing more women in the trades. And I had an opportunity to meet Olivia, and Olivia is one of the trainers. See, Olivia, wave your hand. There you go. She's one of the great trainers, and I encourage more women get into the skilled trades. And our skilled trade workers are the backbone of this province. That's because right here in Vaughan and across Ontario, we're building like never before. We're working with Mayor Del Duca and municipalities across the province to build more homes. At the same time, we've embarked on the most ambitious capital plan in Canadian history, investing over $190 billion over the next 10 years. Together, we're building new hospitals, schools, long-term care homes, highways, roads, bridges, energy, and municipal water projects. As we speak, LiUNA workers here in the GTHA are on site building a new subway and rail projects as part of the largest transit expansion in North America. And unlike previous governments that failed to invest in critical transportation infrastructure, we're getting shovels in the ground for new roads and highways. Highways like 413 and the Bradford Bypass, expanding Highway 3, Highway 11 and 17 up north. But you notice when you're driving down even the 401 and the 400, I could go on and on and on, there's construction everywhere, I should say. Yes, backs up the traffic, but I'll tell you, if we don't do it, it'll even back up more. So I'm so happy when I see everyone out there building and expanding our roadways. But again, we can't get these major projects completed if we don't have the workers. That's why today I'm so thrilled to announce that as part of our Skills Development Fund capital stream, our government is investing more than $26 million to help LiUNA 183 build a brand new training center right here in Vaughan, which is great. That's amazing. This investment will double the campus's capacity, helping to train almost 50,000 more people for in-demand careers in carpentry, bricklaying, concrete finishing, crane and heavy equipment operation, and so much more. The new center will help workers in Vaughan and throughout the GTHA find better jobs with bigger paychecks for them and their families. It will help attract new investments and help us build the homes, schools, hospitals, highways, and other critical infrastructure that the region needs, that the province needs. Right across Ontario, the $224 million we're investing in this new capital stream will help build the facilities that will give more than 1 million Ontario workers the resources, training, and support they need as we continue working together to build Ontario. And following today's announcement, I'm looking forward to seeing more training centres funded and opened right across our great province. And I can't wait to be back here for the opening of this new centre. Thank you all for joining us today, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you so much. Before I start and take a question, I know Minister Piccini said it, but happy birthday, Joe. You're an incredible champion for our province. But I have to add one more birthday wish. And Joe, I love you, but there's one person I love a little more, and that's my daughter Kyla. I call her Kai Kai, the Kai Kai cookies thing. But Kai Kai, happy birthday. I love you. Can't wait to see you today. Yeah, thank you.
We will now open the floor for questions from the media. Please come to the mic and state your name and outlet. Just a reminder, the format today is one question and one follow-up. First question.
Good morning, Premier.
Good morning.
Mark McAllister from City News.
Hi, Mark.
A great deal of Americans were watching the television last night, no doubt Canadians as well.
Yeah.
Just curious at this point what your takeaway from what you saw was.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. I'm not picking sides. We work with anyone. We've been working with a lot of Democratic and Republican senators and governors. I just want someone that's going to be able to work with Ontario and Canadians and work on the free trade agreements coming up again to renew in February. We'll be down there really promoting all the great jobs that we have here in Ontario. We want to attract more companies up here. But we want to make sure it's fair trade. We don't believe in throwing tariffs on, for example, last time they tried to throw tariffs on steel. That's unacceptable. But we want to work with them. We're their number one, third largest trading partner in the world. Ontario is. We do about $500 billion of two-way trade and pretty well equally split. The only difference between Mexico and China, the U.S. has massive trade deficits with them. Ours has grown $100 billion since we've been in office. We're the number one customer or trading partner to 17 states and number 2 to 13 others. Folks, we've become an economic powerhouse in North America. They know it as well. So we look forward to working with whoever wins.
On another topic altogether, National School Food Program was announced by the federal government back in the spring. There's a number of organizations that would benefit from that have said they're still waiting on the province to strike a deal with the federal government to make sure that that money flows properly. When might we expect that from Ontario?
Well, we're working on it, and you know something? I'm going to pull the Minister of Education for life, even though he's the Minister of Labour. You were Minister of Education when they were doing that. Do you want to come up and say a few words? I know, I'm catching him right off guard. Don't worry, you still have a little role in Minister of Education.
I mean, I don't, but I guess I don't have a choice. But no, look, Minister Dunlop has been working with the federal government. Obviously, we want to get these dollars out the door. Many of these programs are announced, and then we wait a long time to actually make the impact we want. Our province has stepped up with additional funding through the Ministry of Education to support more nutritious food programs for kids. We want them to arrive to school without barriers to learning, and so that they're physically and mentally in a good place. And so the Government of Ontario has stepped up. Minister Parsa leads that program. He's invested an additional $1 million last year alone on top of the existing program. And of course, we look forward to the federal dollars flowing to the province so we can get them into our schools and provide healthier, nutritious breakfasts and lunches for the kids of Ontario. Okay.
Thank you. See, he still has it. Minister of Energy and Education. No, Minister Dunlop's an absolute champ. She's doing an incredible job, and she'll be working with the federal government, as Minister Lecce said. And we want to make sure that children are fed, because when you have a full little tummy, you can think a lot better during the day.
All right. Good morning, Premier. Rob Ferguson from the Toronto Star.
Hi, Rob.
Good morning. Just wanted to ask you about a little girl named Nevia. She was 4 years old when she was found in a Rosedale dumpster, as you know. And just to round out the question, she bounced around between York and Toronto Children's Aid, and the system lost track of her. And that's when she was found dead in a dumpster. Do you think there should be a coroner's inquest into
Well, that's first of all, it's an absolute tragedy. Just think of this poor little girl, 4 years old. I believe the system failed her, and we can never let that happen again. But that's going to be up to the chief coroner if he wants to do an inquest. But we can never have that happen again. It's heartbreaking. You think this poor little girl ends up in a dumpster. That's heart-wrenching.
Do you think there needs to be a wider systemic look at this kind of problem?
I think we got to make sure it never happens again, and no matter if it takes a wider scope to look at it, we need to do everything we can to make sure no little boy or girl ever faces this again. And the police were saying, or maybe it was a coroner, I just remember this sticking in my head, this poor little girl was probably in that dumpster for a year. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Good morning, Premier. This is Nitin Chopra from Prime Asia. Question is for Minister Piccini, and you can also add a comment on that.
Okay.
Especially in the Peel region, there are many wage thefts going on by the employers. Minister Piccini, how you make sure that employees or workers, their rights are protected? Because we have seen those protests on the roads because of the wage thefts. Many employers are delaying their wages for months and months. There are many cash job offers. They don't pay checks so that employer don't have to pay the benefits. And labor courts, they are very slow. So that's the reason we see the protest there. What is your plan, Minister Piccini, and how will you tackle this issue of wage thefts? What is your message to those suffering employees and workers? How can you protect their rights? Thank you.
Well, thank you. I just want to say before I pass to Minister Piccini, we have the toughest labor laws in the entire country. Our job as leaders of the province and of our local communities, and I know Joe and Jack feel the same way, nothing is more important to us than the frontline workers. Without protecting frontline workers, nothing happens. The economy comes to a halt. So we'll do everything we can to make sure our hardworking folks of this province are always protected. I'll pass it over to Minister Piccini.
Thanks, Premier, and thank you for the question. As the Premier mentioned, what does that tough sort of labour code look like? I mean, under this government and our Working for Workers bill, we put in place the highest penalties under the Employment Standards Act for those who withhold wages. We've also implemented a regulatory regime and a licensing framework for temporary help agencies, cracking down on what we've seen there. So that can only happen if you also have inspectors and enforcement, and that's why we've increased the number of inspectors, training through the summer. I've spoken with my ministry about that. We have new inspectors coming out on the roads to make sure that the legislation that exists is actually enforced. And finally, I would say, and why we're here today, is you work with those who take an active interest in training, in taking that young boy or girl who may be susceptible for a cash job and saying, hey, we're going to get you in a training agreement. We're going to get you trained, better training, better job with a bigger paycheck. We're going to tie you up with an employer who is invested in your success. And that's, I mean, we have so many employer contractor partners who are here today who are invested in their employees and the skill sets that they get from good training. So, you know, at a very macro level, that's also what we're doing.
Thank you. Premier, in terms of the landlord-tenant board, previously you promised that landlords will get the right. If they don't get their rent in 2 months, it will be automatically eviction. Can landlords see that order from you before the term expires? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's ironic you asked me this. I spent an hour with my Attorney General yesterday, just running through the agenda. And I think the pendulum has swung the other way, especially for small landlords. And these poor folks, they save up everything they have, they buy one extra condo or maybe a house, and someone goes in there and they don't pay rent. And then in a lot of cases, these small landlords, I'm not talking the big ones that own 300 apartment buildings or whatever, I'm talking the little mom and pop ones that end up losing their house or losing their condo because they can't pay the mortgage because the people aren't paying rent. And as for the tenants, we have the toughest laws in the country, bar none, to protect tenants. But I think it is, and we'll always do that, but the pendulum has swung, folks. You got to pay rent, simple as that. You just can't stiff your landlord, especially the small little landlords. I get calls every day. So what we're trying to do is expedite the process and make sure we get it through the system as quickly as possible when someone's not paying.
Hey, good morning, Premier Colin DeMello with Global News.
Hi, Colin.
Earlier this year, the Ministry of Housing had worked on a very detailed plan to scale up housing built around transit stations in the GTA. We understand that you personally received a briefing on this plan and that it was presented to Cabinet, but was eventually scrapped. What was the issue from your perspective?
Well, first of all, I don't think, the province knows best all the time. We shouldn't be dictating to great mayors like Mayor Del Duca or other mayors in the City of Toronto or anywhere in the 444 municipalities when it comes to building along transit lines. The transit-oriented communities are a little different. If you have a subway or GO train, yes, you should build the density. But going down a main artery of a traffic artery, you can't, in some cases, you can't build a 4, 6, 8-story building. In other areas you can, but that's not up to the province to dictate to the municipalities. No one knows their communities better than the municipalities. No one knows where to build, the 4-story or 6-story buildings better than the community. But if you just slap up a 4, 6, 8-story building right in the middle of a neighborhood, I don't know, that's just my opinion. I wouldn't want a 4, 6-story building stacked up right beside me.
Thank you. To be clear, though, I'm not talking about fourplexes or eightplexes or whatnot. I'm talking about large-scale buildings, where we're talking about towers really around transit stations. That was the plan that the Ministry of Housing had presented. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, is a plan like that, where the province dictates what the minimum height requirements or not having any maximum height requirements on these buildings, is that completely off the table? Because, I mean, the province is looking to address a housing crisis.
Yeah, again, Colin, I just think it should be up to the municipalities. I'm so impressed when I'm going down the 400, and it's funny, I do call the mayor and say I love the skyline going down there, because they have the transit, and just look at Vaughan, I don't know, 15 years ago, not even probably 15 years ago, it was flat. Now they have a beautiful skyline, creating more homes for people in this province. So again, I think the mayors and the council, they know where to build and they know where not to build. So that's what I believe in.
Hi, Premier. Siobhan Morris with CTV News.
Hi, Siobhan.
I wanted to ask you about the appointment of Gary Crawford in his role on a new deal for Toronto. Can you talk about what still needs to be hammered out in those discussions in their next phase?
Yeah, I'm so fortunate that Gary has come on board. He was down at City Hall. He was the budget chief for the last 9 years. No one understands the books better than he does. We made a $9 billion deal with Toronto, and he's going to be into it deep and working with the council. He knows a lot of the councillors, as I do, and knows the mayor very well. So we just look forward to working and collaborating with the city to make it a better city. It's a great city, but let's make it better. Let's make it safer. Let's continue building the transit. So those are some of the areas that Gary's going to be focused on.
This question could be for you or for Minister Lecce. An air quality study of the Portland's Energy Centre found that pollution levels there are so high that it's going to affect plans for a high-rise housing development there, so that higher floors, for example, either can't be built with balconies or people there won't be able to open their windows. Yeah. We know that the government's looking at expanding the use of gas plants like these ones. Are you worried at all that places like this will make it harder for people to have choice about housing that they actually want to live in?
I'll pass that over to Minister Lecce.
Thanks, Siobhan. Look, what's going to put in peril our ability to build homes is a lack of power that the province desperately needs. That is the single greatest deterrent to building new homes, will be the ability of the province to generate power to build our economy, build our infrastructure, and build the homes that our families need. So we are committed to a reliable, affordable, clean grid. We have literally one of the cleanest electricity grids on the continent and in the world. Roughly 90% is non-emitting. And we're doing that in partnership with LiUNA workers who are literally building out our nuclear fleet in this province. So we'll continue to work with the mayor and council as we transition into a cleaner future. Our commitment is clean, affordable, but it must be reliable. And, those particular plans are used for peak purposes, meaning when you absolutely need them as the ultimate insurance policy to keep the lights on the hottest days of summer and the coldest days of winter. So we're committed to a clean future. We're building nuclear energy. We just announced the largest clean energy procurement in the history of Canada, where renewables, you were present, will play a critical role in that future. But whatever we do will not be driven by ideology. They'll put in peril the ability of reliability. We're not going to put at risk, as the IESO suggested we would, if we make any rash decisions. So we're committed to a cleaner future. We'll work with the city on the way forward. We'll keep our grid clean, but it must be reliable. It must be affordable. That's our bottom line. Thank you.
Good morning, Premier and ministers here, and Mayor, and LiUNA. Andrew Brennan, CP24. I wanted to just start off topic on looking at new numbers, looking at the access to funding for kids on the autism spectrum. According to new data, the number of children that are actually getting services is declining, enrollment is declining, funding seemingly not keeping up, and the wait list, which is not government sanctioned, it's done by Autism Ontario, is getting to a point where they can't even say that 6-7 years for a child waiting for services could even be accurate. What do you have to say potentially to families out there who are seeing the wait list grow and are unsure when their kid is going to be able to get government-funded therapy?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I just want to remind everyone, when we came into office, it was a bankrupt system. There was $200 million. I think it was 2 weeks into it. They said they had no money. We've increased that over $700 million that we're giving funding. There's over 8,000 when I first started, children with autism, and all of a sudden in 5 years later, there's, I don't know, I'm hearing numbers of 60 or 70,000. So, we're going to continue investing into the autism sector and working with families. It's very challenging for these parents. I've talked to many of them, but we've increased funding to a staggering amount. We'll continue investing in the system.
Premier, a couple of days ago when we were hearing your thoughts on Mr. Singh and the potential for a snap election, the leader of the NDP has now responded saying that, quote, Doug Ford needs to worry about delivering health care. Ontarians can't get access. They're struggling with the cost of living. And he, being you, is obsessed with alcohol in convenience stores. What do you have to say in response? Is this something that could potentially be, calmed over a drink at a table, whether pop or beer?
Yeah, no, that's up to Jagmeet Singh. It was a simple answer when one of the media asked me, do you think an election's going to happen? And I'll repeat what I said. I just don't believe he's going to be calling an election before he gets a pension. I got the date wrong. I was off for a few months. It's actually February 25th. So, folks, stay tuned. Any time after February 25th, when he gets his pension and the rest of them do, it's open game. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And if the federal election gets called, we'll work with anyone who gets elected like we do with everyone else. So, but I'll tell you one thing, the election won't be called before he gets his pension. I'll leave it at that.
This will be the last reporter.
Hi there, Alan Hale from Queen's Park today.
Hi, Alan.
So advocates for safe consumption sites have been warning that the decision to close some of the facilities will be a death sentence for many people who benefit them by having somebody watch them to make sure they don't overdose and die. But Health Minister Sylvia Jones told our colleague from the Trillium that, quote, people are not going to die. Will you also commit to Ontarians that no one will die as the result of these closures, or is Minister Jones wrong and some deaths are inevitable?
Well, let me tell you about Minister Jones. She's one of the best ministers of health, best deputy premier I could ever ask for. She's doing an incredible job. These heart hubs, that's what works. And, you don't be giving people drugs and have needles all over the ground. I've had endless calls, absolutely endless calls, showing me pictures of needles by schools, by daycare. That's unacceptable. And if they are, they're being closed down. We believe in support in giving people an opportunity to get back on their feet and have a great job and maybe get a trade, and also making sure that we have an area that they can have rehabilitation, the detox beds, job opportunities. We're putting $378 million into this program. It's never been done before. I feel terrible for people that have addictions. I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't know a friend, a cousin, a relative with some sort of addiction problem. Some are more serious than others. But we're there to help them and get them back on their feet. The other problem I have is this federal safe supply. It's a totally unsafe supply, and I think my counterpart, Premier Eby, said it best. You can go into these safe supply places and get endless drugs. That's like giving someone a bunch of poker chips, dropping them off at the casino, a gambling addict, and say go to town, or giving them a free pass to an alcoholic, a free pass to LCBO. That doesn't help people. They need counseling. They need support. They need the detox beds. They need rehabilitation. They need opportunities. That's how you help people, not giving them free drugs.
Of these consumption sites said that they do help people and that they should be expanded. They didn't recommend that they be closed. But you have said that this is just your personal opinion. So if it's your personal opinion, are you willing to back it up by acknowledging that people could die, or are you convinced that they won't?
Well, this is a effort to support people. Yes, do I believe personally that we need to help people? Yes, but This is the right thing to do. We've seen over and over again since the safe consumption sites have come in, it hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse, a lot worse. And people do not want them in their neighborhood. Would you want me to put a safe I call it the unsafe consumption site beside your house? If you're honest, you'll say no, I don't want them, because you don't know what happens around the area. You have the drug dealers, you have crime. It's not good. It is not good. Anyways, we're moving forward and spending $378 million in supporting people with addictions.
Thank you. This concludes today's announcement.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.